Hello, my loves. I hope today and this week finds you in a good space and you are doing well. Thank you for coming today. So, my intention today is to continue on the kind of verses segments that I've been doing. So, if you haven't seen perception versus reality or feelings versus emotions, then I would highly recommend them. And I will post in the chat when we're done today links where you can watch them directly. And just like last week, I will also answer any questions when we're done. So today I'm going to talk about the difference between compassion versus sympathy. And this is important because we often talk about being sympathetic, but is it a good thing? Sympathy can often have a component of judgment attached to it, and it is more related to pity than compassion. Compassion, on the other hand, can also be described as empathy. And empathy is the ability to take the perspective of another. So it involves feeling with people. If someone tells you that someone they love has passed, well, to be truly empathetic, you need to kind of sink into that place where you too have lost someone that you love. And to do that, it creates vulnerability. So when we are being compassionate or empathetic, it means that we have to be vulnerable. Brene Brown describes sympathy as beginning with the words at least. So she gives examples like someone says to you, "Oh, I'm in so much pain." And you say, "Well, at least you've got money to pay for a doctor." Or someone might say, "Oh gosh, I am struggling. I feel so broke." And they say, "Well, at least you have your health." Or someone might say, "My husband has cancer and they're going to die." And you might say after a sigh, "Well, at least you had those good years together." And you might even add, I wish I had known a love like you and your husband have known. So sympathy has a tendency to minimize the situation. And we do it because we kind of want to put a silver lining around someone's pain. We want to make an attempt to make them feel better. And in turn, it also makes ourselves feel better because we feel like we've made a difference. So sympathy, in effect, is an attempt to fix someone's pain. Compassion, however, is more about sharing space without trying to fix it or fade it, as Maya Angelou would say. Compassion is understanding that there is nothing we can say a lot of times to make it better for somebody, and that there are some amounts of pain and suffering that words will not take away. So compassion is all about sharing space. Compassion might mean saying nothing, but just being available for someone. Compassion might say, I know there's nothing I can say or do to make this any better for you. But I want you to know that I feel for you very deeply, and I'm here. If you want to talk, or if you want to share, or if you want to cry, or if you want to rage, or if you want a distraction, or if you just like me to come over and sit next to you on the couch so you feel less alone. I hope that makes sense. There's also another way to describe this dynamic that might feel more connected for you. So I want you to imagine that the person that you care for is in a hole, a kind of deep, dark place where we all know depression can reside. So being sympathetic can often feel like crawling down into that hole with that person, and you wrap your arms around them and you rock with them and you cry and you rage, and they say, oh, and you say, and you just support their pain. And you immerse yourself in their suffering. But really, nothing that we're doing when we do that supports anyone in their ease of it. So compassion would be throwing down a ladder and telling that person, I'm here. Anytime you want help, anytime you want to be held, anytime you need support, here's my hand. Climb up and take it. You're not immersing yourself in someone else's suffering. You're not trying to take it on. You're not trying to ease it by making it yours. And you're not making your pain over their pain more important than their suffering. Instead, you're offering them a place that they can go to when they're ready for support. Understanding that not everybody is always ready to be there. So I hope that makes sense. And I will go and see if anybody has any questions about that. Okay. No questions, so I'm going to assume that perhaps this makes sense. And since we have some more time, I thought I would talk a little bit about the difference between judgment and discernment. So these are two terms that can often be used interchangeably, but they also have a big difference in how they feel when we are experiencing them. So judgment is when we hear someone say something and we think to ourselves, oh, they should not have done that. That was not a good choice for them. That is definitely the wrong thing they should have done. And oftentimes when we're judging someone, they feel it. They know that we don't think they're making smart choices. We don't think that they are taking our advice or the advice of others, or even their own advice when they've said perhaps many times that they wanted to shift their life, but instead you see them replicating patterns. Discernment has no judgment attached. So discernment is more like compassion. Discernment is recognizing when someone shares something with you that you don't agree with or think that it is a good choice, you only apply it to yourself. So when I judge someone, I'm judging that something is not right for them. When I am discerning, I am deciding that something is not healthy for me. So I can hear someone else describe a situation and not make any decisions about whether or not it was right or wrong for them. And in reality, when we have talked before about the fact that every choice that we're making, even if we don't like it in retrospect, it had purpose in the time that we were doing it and making it. So a lot of times when we are discerning, we can understand that even when someone is sharing something with us that is incredibly painful and it is due to some choices that they've made that we would not have chosen for them, it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It doesn't mean that they've done anything wrong. It means that there clearly is still a lesson here for them if they are going to continue to make decisions that have painful effects. Again, versus discernment, where we can decide, you know, I would not have done that crazy stuff that you did. So for me, that is not okay. But for you, I hope that there is something that you can learn from it and some way that you can grow from it. And that perhaps it showed you that contrast that we're all here to receive. And the more that we know what we don't want, well, the more that we know that what we do want. So that is the difference between judgment and discernment, if that makes any sense. So it looks like I have some comments, so let me take a look. So Randall said that's a good explanation. Good, I'm glad. Karma said, if someone feels that they struggle with compassion, do you have any more recommendations on how to become better at it? Absolutely. So the first thing they need to do is stop before they say anything and try to imagine what that feeling in them feels like. And, we are all interconnected in this collective consciousness. So it is not often when someone shares something with me when I can't make some link to my own pain that connects with it. So I can feel with them, not for them, but with them. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're definitely not going to say, well, at least. And we're definitely not going to try to fix it. We're not going to try to make it better. If someone wants your thoughts, you can say, I have some thoughts about that. Let me know if you want me to share. And they might say, not right now. Or you may realize that in the case of the death of a loved one, there's really nothing anyone can say that's going to make that better. And I share this with people that also are very faith-filled or have a deep religious background to help you also understand that sometimes it can be incredibly painful when someone's lost someone, for someone who's deep in their faith to say something like, well, at least they're with God. Because for a lot of people, that's not soothing. They don't have the faith that you have, or for them, they may not care. They don't want them with God. They want their child with them. So try not to make it about a way you can make someone feel better, and instead try to just hold space that they can be whatever they need to be in that moment, and know that you will not judge them, and you will instead just try to love them. Chris said, sympathy is more about you than them. Compassion is about them. Exactly. So a sympathetic response is one that really is about making yourself feel better or feel good about what you've said or thinking that you've helped someone. And, to me, sympathy often goes along with things like my thoughts and prayers. Compassion, on the other hand, is more closely related to taking an action on behalf of somebody. So compassion might be when you hear about something horrible, instead of sending thoughts and prayers, finding out what you could do to help make changes that might prevent something from happening again. Karma said, I love how you gave an example of how to respond because I have an issue with wanting to say I told you so. You are not the only one. I think we all have at least one person, maybe many people in our lives that continually kind of make the same choices that they've complained about making in the past. And it's hard not to say, well, if you would have listened to what I said before, you wouldn't be where you're at now. So what I try to do is remember that there is no wrong person, and there is no broken person, and there is no wrong space, and there is no wrong choice. There are learning opportunities and growth experiences. And that's what we're all here to do, right? And sometimes we have to be super uncomfortable before we stop doing something that we ourselves have thought is stupid. So we have to just continually keep doing things to the point where we just can't live in our situation anymore. We can't live with these choices anymore in order for us to shift into a place where we can be happier. And all the well-meaning advice in the world is not going to make a difference for somebody who doesn't hurt enough to change. And by that, I mean the stereotypic example of maybe a loved one choosing the same partner over and over again that continually hurts them in the same ways. They may need to continue to do that until they decide that they're worth more. They have more value. And that will help them make choices that won't be as painful as the lessons they've been learning. But yeah, it's hard not to say, I told you so. It's hard not to shake a person and tell them, stop doing these things that hurt you because it hurts me to see you hurt. But then we go back to compassion and we remember the times that we have done stupid things or things that in retrospect, we smack our head about, and remember how we did not need anyone to say how much smarter they were than us. And instead we just needed someone to hold space and go, gosh, that really hurts to hear. And I'm so sorry you're going through that. Randall said, it can be so hard to not try to fix or fade the pain of someone you care about. It is so incredibly painful. I have been heard to say, I cannot sit amidst your unmeetable, painful needs for much longer. Because sometimes when we hear someone suffer and continue to suffer and continue to suffer, and we can do nothing about it, we get what's called compassion fatigue, where we've been holding space as much as we can without trying to fix or fade. But it's good to understand that sometimes you need a break. And it's okay to say to somebody, I love you and I understand you're hurting, but I can't be in that hole with you. I can't rock and cry and suffer with you. It hurts me too much. So I'm going to stand up here. I'm going to put my hand out, and just know when you're ready to climb up that I'm here for you, that I love you, that I'm not judging you, that I'm just feeling for you and hope it gets better and wish for it to be better. But right now in this moment, I can't talk with you anymore about it. And that's okay, because compassion fatigue is a real thing. And better that you tell someone, I need to stop, than you let yourself be drained to the point where you stop caring at all. And Randall said, how's that working out for you? As you all know, sometimes our narratives are our biggest source of suffering, right? One of my favorite lines is, we make things up and then we believe them. And so he knows that I have said to people when they have told me their narrative, and I have said, do you want any thoughts about how you can shift that? And they have said, yes, absolutely. How can I make this better? And I've offered them suggestions, and they respond with that kind of deep attachment to their suffering. And they say things like, well, I can't do that because of this. 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 And yeah, that's at the point where you might say, how's that working out for you? And sometimes that humor can help somebody shift out of a place of feeling that they cannot do anything to make their life any better. I like the phrase that life is happening for me versus life is happening to me. And sometimes that can make all the difference in the world. So, well, I have gone long. So what I'm going to do is I am first off going to put those 2 YouTube videos that I promised you in the chat right now. And hopefully you will enjoy them. Again, these are videos that I have written on perception versus reality and feelings versus emotions. So hopefully those will both come up for you. And as always, if you are struggling with your own mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual pain, and you need some insight perhaps on how to shift something in your life that keeps replicating itself, and you don't know how to make different choices or change, I'm here for you. So I'm going to put a link in the chat where you can book a free session with me. It's 30 minutes, and I will endeavor to give you a little mini plan on how you can make at least one change to change your life immediately after we get off the phone. So, as always, my loves, It's wonderful to be here for you. And for those who aren't watching me live, but instead watching me in repeat, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. Your comments mean so much to me. It is wonderful to know that there are people out there that appreciate this knowledge. And as always, I hope it changes your life and makes you happier and more peaceful. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll come back to them today, tomorrow, or later this week. And if you have any comments about perhaps what you would like to hear me do another live on, let me know. Okay. And until Monday, take care of yourself for me. I love you. Bye.